Hi, this is Mark Wiltshire. Thanks for joining me for another episode of the Explore Finland radio show. This episode is a continuation of the conversation that I had in last week's episode with Juha Koivisto, the former promoter of the Provincy Rock Festival here in Seinäjoki. Last week we were talking about Provincy Rock and we were talking about the domestic music scene in Finland. This week the conversation moves on to some other festivals around here, and I think you're going to find some interesting and perhaps slightly more quirky festivals out there. So let's head over now to my conversation with Juha. Okay, today we're talking about festivals, and of course there are festivals in many different countries. We're going to focus specifically on the festival scene in Finland. I'm joined today by Juha Koivisto, and his email signature says promoter, agent. That's it. So I think that Juha is the perfect person to talk to about festivals in Finland. Juha, thanks for joining us today.
Oh yeah, thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. In general, in Finland, why do you think the festival is such an important part of the calendar?
Oh, I think the Finnish summer is so short that we want to take an advantage every possible weekend in summertime when we can be outdoors for some reason.
Yeah,
that might be one of the reasons actually.
It's possible, and we're in the middle of summer now, and it's basically rained for the last 3 weeks. And we were talking before about when it might start to get warm. But you're right, midsummer is approaching, and that's a huge celebration over here. I think perhaps after Christmas, that's the next biggest.
Oh yeah, it's really a Finnish tradition. Have so-called midsummer parties, and towns are really quiet on midsummer, and everybody is going to countryside.
Yeah.
To have a holiday in camping or going to a festival or something like that. And midsummer parties are really a long tradition. Rock Festival has started 50 years ago, and there are some other festivals which are almost as old as Rock.
So Rock is a midsummer festival, is that right? Okay.
And it's quite interesting history because it started to be really, in the beginning, it was really a Schlager Festival.
Okay.
With Finnish artists, Schlager artists, and nowadays it's Heavy Metal Festival.
What? Okay. What is Schlager? Schlager.
Oh, iskelmä.
The traditional with the accordion, that kind of. Right. Okay.
Music.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in a way, that's quite interesting thing happened to festival,
And now
it changed the nature of the happening.
Yeah, I guess it's the music. It's reflecting the music of the people that want to attend that event at that time of the year.
In a way, I think nowadays, midsummer parties are aimed for younger people, and that's one of the reasons. Because even though Finland has got a long tradition in festivals, I think normally people think that festivals belong to younger people, especially festivals with camping possibility. The average age of the festival goers is relatively low compared to other European countries. Okay,
because you generally seen in recent years that it's become an older and older.
Oh yeah, I think in Great Britain the average age of the festival goers is like 34, 35 nowadays, and in Finland it's like 23, 24 in these so-called camping festivals.
Yeah, well, I'm very happy to be pushing that average upwards, and I intend to keep going as long as I can.
And I think at the same time there is room for these new kind of city festivals, which are more easily accessible for older people. And of course there are festivals that just aim for older people, like folk music, jazz festivals, opera festivals, and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and that's interesting because it runs across the entire spectrum of music. Actually, a week ago, my son was singing in one opera show. He was part of the of a group of young boys singing in this show, and it was in Ilmajoki, and it was the opera festival that was taking place there in a really small town. You know, a town smaller than Seinäjoki, which is a relatively small town.
Yeah.
There's a week or 10 days opera festival. And then you mentioned that there's a jazz festival, which is in Pori.
Oh, yeah.
Every summer. Jazz is the sort of acts that they bring there now. It's kind of jazz and soul and, you know, even acoustic artists playing there now. But still, it's that end of the music spectrum.
Yeah. I think the Finnish festivals has got such a long tradition based on that we have in our nature to work in associations and do some volunteer work, which is called talkootyö. And that's the basis of the festivals, that people are volunteering to run the festivals. So there might be like just a couple of employed people and hundreds of volunteers working to make it happen, and I think that's the secret of having such many festivals in Finland. I think every festival has got a little bit like similar history, that there are like music freaks, music fans, which are forming like association and starting to organize different kind of happenings, festival, and normally has started as just a volunteer project, and some festivals has grown and grown to be really professional organizations after that, after years and years.
I've had a couple of people tell me that in the past, they've worked at a festival for 2 days in order to get a ticket for 2 days, and they're quite happy to sort of do it that way, and they're getting something back, and then they go and party, and that's good for them as well.
And I think nowadays the situation in Finland is a little bit like mixed. There are still lots of festivals which are run by associations, and at the same time, more or less the new festivals are like private companies and aim for make some money.
And as you say, maybe the associations are teaming up or partnering somehow with the larger professional organisations in order to keep the individual ones going.
The overall picture is a little bit like changing. It's more or less beginning to be like business orientated, so you are not able to survive to being a top festival and being just based on one association. It's not necessarily possible anymore, but there are still some festivals which are having a little bit like old kind of model and doing quite well, like Ilosaari Rock, for example, in Joensuu. They are still run by an association.
And do they still manage to get the artists that they need from overseas?
They are based in Joensuu in July, which is really not easily accessible
no,
place
that's true,
even in Finland. So
it's in the very east of Finland.
It's really a struggle, but I think they have got very good brand and very good reputation, and I think people love the atmosphere of the festival, and that's the biggest advantage against other things. And Joensuu is such a beautiful summer town as well.
Okay. When we spoke a few weeks ago, you mentioned Kaustinen.
Yeah.
It's a folk festival up there. Maybe tell me a little bit about that, because I've never been. It's always been. It's about an hour north of Seinäjoki, where we're based. And it's always been a little bit too far, especially with a young family, to make a visit.
About Ilmajoki and saying that it is a really small place.
Yeah.
Kaustinen is far smaller compared to Ilmajoki.
Okay.
But that neighborhood has got that kind of tradition, and lots of folk musicians tend to come over there.
Right, okay.
There is long tradition of music in that neighborhood, and I think that's one of the basics which lies over there, and it's really just middle of the nowhere, heartland of the Finland, and has got that kind of tradition of certain kind of folk music that is just amazing.
And this kind of the heartland of this Eskelma type music,
No,
or
it's not Eskelma. It's really old folk music which you are like Polska, you are playing by violin and that
Right,
kind of
okay.
stuff. Really 18th, 19th century kind of tradition, even though. And there are certain music schools in Kaustinen which are keeping up, the tradition in that neighborhood. And all the old musicians, folk musicians, tend to gather over there. I think there is like 2,000-3,000 of those playing, volunteering that festival as well. So it's really, really something in which is really couldn't happen anywhere else in Finland, I could say.
I remember hearing about this folk festival maybe 8 or 9 years ago, and thinking, well, that sounds interesting, but folk music. And then there's been this kind of explosion of folk and folk-influenced music in the last 6 or 7 years. I think Mumford & Sons, although their music started being more of a kind of bluegrass sound, people heard it and thought folk. Yeah. And since then, there's just been so many different bands, not just from the UK, but from all around with a kind of folk or country sort of sound. And now the idea of a folk festival seems quite easy, even for me to imagine who might play on that with an international feel.
To be honest, I think the expression folk means a little bit different in Finland. It means really old-fashioned kind of really traditional music, which used to be played in small houses in dark winter times.
Yeah.
Keep up the good spirit during the dark time of the year, I think. So.
Oh, I think you're right, and of course the music that becomes popular is always it has an influence from somewhere else, but it's something that the whole mainstream can understand. I'm thinking of acts. I just listened to an interview with them this morning, the Unthanks, and they're from the very north of England. They sing in a really strong, I think, Northumberland accent that I can't always understand, but it's just beautiful and it's melancholy, and I think there's some of that in Finnish music as well. I'm doing an interview, as you know, with some of your colleagues in a few weeks' time, where we're going to talk about Finnish music. But there's definitely a melancholia, I think, to the sound of it.
Kaustinen is more closer to world music tradition.
Right, okay.
And I think they have certain kind of international acts over there which are really folklore kind of stuff, dancing groups and that kind of things.
It sounds interesting. It does. I really...
You have to experience it once, because it's really something completely different.
Yeah.
Someone would say.
Now I'm gazing away thinking, when can I get myself to Kaustinen? What about nowadays? What's been happening new in the last few years? We've been talking about festivals that have been around for at least 10 years, I think, so far, and some of them 50 years. But nowadays you see new things popping up all the time. For example, I just saw this Sideways festival being advertised in Helsinki, and there's one or two others in Seinäjoki. Maybe you can just sort of talk about a few of those for a few minutes.
Let's say that I would say that in 80s, when we were talking about festivals, it did normally mean that you were in some remote place, in small place, and you did have some camping possibilities, and it was really archaic, so no any proper facilities or anything like that. And nowadays it seems to be that the new wave of festivals are more or less like city festivals, which are held in main squares of the town, or in a way in urban environment as well, like Sideways festivals last in Helsinki. And I think festival markets are quite divided compared. There are those old traditional kind of camping festival, and as well new kind of city festivals. And in a way, city festivals are more or less like, I think comes from different kind of tradition. You are having parties in mid-town, and normally the program ends like 10 in the evening. You might have some clubs after that. But you have got nice neighborhood, good facilities, good. Nowadays it seems to be that it's really a compulsory thing to have a good catering possibilities. You know, food is relatively important thing in festivals nowadays. There is certain kind of street gourmet kind of fever going on in Finland, I would say. And nice and easy and easily accessible events. You can even go with metro to enter the festivals.
Yeah.
When in the past you did have to travel by train
and like, for example, locally in Seinäjoki, you've got this HipHop Festival that started in the last few years, I think.
And it's quite obvious when you are having urban music, you are having that kind of festivals in urban environment.
Yeah,
well.
that makes sense.
That's true.
But and also there's Solar Sound, which is more of a EDM dance kind of festival, and that's again sprung up in recent years.
Yeah, and I think you can easily say that the average age of the audience is not over 20 years in those kind of events.
No. But at the other end of the spectrum, we haven't talked about this yet, and I think we really need to, is Tangomarkkinat.
Yeah.
What one thing that always strikes me as impressive from the town is that Seinäjoki will just close down roads and block them off and throw a party in the middle of town, as you said. And this Tangomarkkinat festival, it has a much older target audience.
Oh, definitely.
And it's kind of there's a singing competition on TV. It's like the grandfather of the X Factor or something like that. And these people are singing on TV. There's a winner, a male and a female winner chosen.
Tango King and Tango Queen.
Exactly. And then they actually are at the festival in Seinäjoki to sing for the audience. And a lot of people go there just to dance. Just to explain a little bit of, I don't know, some of your experiences and also when people come to Seinäjoki for that festival, where do they sleep? What's the accommodation? It's not camping.
No, definitely not camping. And in a way, I think like Tango Festival is starting like mid-80s, and I think the great innovation must have closed down a couple of streets on the center of the Seinäjoki and turned them like to dance kind of halls in a way.
Yeah.
In a way, I think that kind of festivals has been somewhere in Great Britain, like Reclaims the Streets or Street Carnival or something like that.
Well, that's true in a way. I mean, the Notting Hill Carnival is very much a parade that goes through the streets. I've never been. It takes place, I don't know, 10 miles from my home, but I've never been. But this is more of it's a static area in Seinäjoki where people go to dance.
Yeah, and certain kind of tango tradition in Finland, which is Finnish tango, isn't similar compared to Argentinian ones, but let's say that there used to be the golden age of music in Finland, 40s, 50s, lots of dance hall. Mm-hmm. So there is really a strong tradition in Finland to go to dance tango music. And in a way, it was really a success at one point, to turn that kind of tradition into this kind of street festival, actually. People would love to go to really overcrowded streets to dance tango music, and it's aimed for middle-aged or even older people, 40, 50 years old, and it has been going since, I think, 95 or something like that, and it has been quite successful, although it seems to be that it was on their heydays, it was one of the most watched TV shows as well in Finland. Yeah. Tango contest, when those amateur singers contest against each other. And who will be the next tango thing or so. And I think it did lose some popularity after the new TV shows came to Finnish television, those Voice of Finland and that kind of stuff. But in a way, it's still keeping up quite nicely, actually. And
I think that's when you go into the festival area, and it's a similar area to the Valtiajat Race and Rock Festival that happens a couple of weeks afterwards. But you have an outdoor area with a stage, so it looks like a traditional festival. But there are a few other sort of indoor areas and tents
where
and
you
things.
can dance. Actually, there should be a really certain kind of floor on those kind of tents that you can dance quite easily. It's not too slippery or not too hard one, actually.
Actually, my parents are coming over in a few... We're recording this in the middle of June, and my parents are coming over in a few weeks' time, and they timed this trip to come for the Tango Festival. They don't dance. They when they have a drink, they like to dance, and that's the best place. That's the best place for it.
It's really that kind of stuff that people just want to listen to same old songs year after year. It's really something that it's in the backbone of all Finnish history. Certain songs.
The other amazing thing to see is the number of camper vans that arrive in Seinäjoki. Not everyone can stay in a hotel, so lots of open land is turned over.
Every park in centre of the Seinäjoki town is turned into camper van area, actually.
But also...
And there are like thousands of those. It's really an amazing thing that you can turn one city centre a total festival site in that sense.
Yeah, it's true. And then you drive down the busy roads and they have a large grass verge at the side of the road, and there's just camper vans parked anywhere they can find some space. It's I think it's fantastic. I think it's something special and something that should be, I don't know, admired or appreciated somehow.
And people did start it even before the Airbnb to rent their houses for tango guests as well. So it's quite big business for somebody, to go to summer cottage on that weekend and rent your own house to tango guests.
Yeah, actually, I've got a friend who did that last year, yeah.
There's just not enough hotel rooms in Seinäjoki for all the tango guests, and people won't stay in tents because they are a little bit older, too old for that one.
Yeah. No, and of course you take a whole family and you put a whole family in a hotel, that gets expensive, whereas renting a house is perhaps more cost effective. So what do you think, the future of festivals in Finland? It's changing, but it's healthy?
Oh, I think it's changing, and generally I think healthy festival climate, I would say. But I think there are certain difficulties nowadays, for example, which rock festivals are facing, because more and more people are able to visit some other festivals in Europe, and they can be there more freely because there are certain bureaucratic things in Finnish law that you can't have certain kind of restaurants area in festivals, which are causing that festivals are not so cozy and nice that they would like to be.
Yeah, that's true. Not being able to take an alcoholic drink in front of the stage. You have to stay in a caged area.
Quite strict license where you can have, alcohol served in festival areas. And some festivals, especially new festivals in eastern parts of Europe, are quite inexpensive as well. So it's quite easy to have low-budget flights for somewhere else in Europe and have nice festival week somewhere with the same money that you can spend over one weekend in Finland. And people are traveling more and comparing things. So in a way, that's a challenge for festival organizers nowadays to cater also for low-budget festival goers. So
it's not an easy thing to get all of those people to the same place, but maybe that's the point. Maybe that's the point of the different festivals.
I think lots of Finnish festival has started to sell so-called premium tickets.
Right, yeah.
You can access better toilets and have better restaurant services, paying a little bit extra. Yeah. And in a way, I think one of the reasons for that is that at the same time, middle-aged people don't want to party at the same place where young kids are.
Maybe that.
So
you
are segmented different kind of audiences for different part of the festival side.
No, maybe that's true. But ultimately, for people that are listening, there is at least one festival for you. Whatever music you're into, there is something here for you.
There is so many different kind of festivals in Finland that it's just amazing. There is like film festival, literature festival, theatre festivals, opera festival, jazz festivals, kids festivals, and even vamp football festivals as well.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, that's true. No, you're quite right.
There is festivals for every thing you can imagine taking place in Finland in summertime.
And what I will do is in the notes that I put on the website is to include some links to some of these festivals and try and find a place that lists all the different festivals that you can attend. Juha, thanks so much for your time. We've been recording for about 50 minutes now, and it feels like 5.
We have just started.
That's true. Maybe we should come back one day and do this again. Thank you for joining me.
Thanks for inviting me. It was a pleasure.
You're welcome. Thank you again. Okay, so for the second week running, thank you, Juha, for speaking to me about the festivals and about Finnish music. I appreciate the time that you gave me, and I hope that everyone listening enjoyed it and found it as interesting as clearly I did when we were speaking that day. Please remember to head over to iTunes or Stitcher Radio to subscribe to the show, to rate or review the show. All of these help me find a bigger audience out there on the various podcast players. If you want to keep up with the Explore Finland radio show when you're not listening to the podcast, then there's Facebook, Twitter, Google+, and also Instagram. And I just wanted to take a moment to say thanks to a few people who have started following the show on Instagram in the last few weeks. So Jay Soini, From Up North, Kirill, Tom Gagner, and Adelina. All of you have decided to follow me. I'm not hugely prolific on Instagram, but from time to time when there's something I think might be interesting, then I put a picture up there. I'm looking at my home screen now, and as well as different episodes of the podcast on there, there's a picture of me with the Veikkausliiga trophy that Seinäjoki won recently. There's also a picture from the projection room of a local cinema, and I was there just a week or two ago recording a future episode. So when that episode comes out, you'll be able to see obviously some pictures from there, but also see a sneak preview on Instagram. Also, you can follow the show on my website, so head over to explorefinlandpodcast.com. If you don't use social media, but you still like to be updated what I'm up to, then just click the follow button on the website. Every time I publish something, you'll get an email or a notification to let you know that I've got something new for you. And that's everything for this week. So again, thanks for listening, and until next week's episode, thanks a lot and goodbye.